One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Good afternoon, I5 Space. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in on the I5 YouTube channel or on the I5 website. I'm Evangeline Cernas, your Outreach Team Commander for I5 Space. And today we are so very delighted to have a very special guest for our talk, NASA astronaut Dr. Kjell N. Lindgren. Dr. Kjell N. Lindgren, a U.S. Airforce Academy graduate, was selected in June of 2009 as one of the 9 members of the 20th NASA astronaut class. Following the completion of 2 years of training and evaluation, he was assigned technical duties in the Spacecraft Communicator Branch and the Extravehicular Activity Branch. Lindgren served as the lead spacecraft communicator for Expedition 30. Lindgren flew on the Expedition 44-45 and logged 141 days, about 4.5 months in space. He participated in 2 spacewalks and more than 100 different scientific experiments. He also served as the commander of NASA's SpaceX Crew 4 mission to the International Space Station, returning home on October 14, 2022. At the U.S. Air Force Academy, Lindgren was a member of Wing's Blue Parachute Team, where he served as an instructor, a jump master, and a member of the Academy's Intercollegiate National Championship Team. Lindgren received a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1995, a Master of Science degree in cardiovascular physiology from Colorado State University in 1996, and a Doctor of Medicine from the University of Colorado in 2002. He completed a 3-year residency in emergency medicine, a National Library of Medicine postdoctoral fellowship, and a Master of Health Informatics, a 2-year residency in aerospace medicine in 2008, and a Master of Public Health in 2007. Lindgren is a board certified in emergency medicine. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. So starting off with my questions, I was lucky enough to hear from you at the National Character and Leadership Symposium back in February. And I heard about your incredible journey from cadet to doctor to astronaut. There are a lot of people and a lot of cadets in I-5 who wish to become astronauts and who can only dream of it, but are told that there is a very specific formula to follow and very specific steps that they have to take, and that if you deviate from those steps, the likelihood of you achieving your goals is unlikely. So if you would be so kind to talk a little bit about your journey and how you eventually achieved your goals, even if that may have looked a little different from what you thought it would be.
You bet. Thank you, Cadet Cernas, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to the I-5 team. Yeah, I'm really excited to share the path with you. It is an incredible privilege to get to serve as an astronaut, to serve our country in this very unique and special way, and to have the experience of living and working in space. And I think the thing that I can say outright, the reason that this is so special is that really, according to all rule and reason, I should not be here. I should not have gotten to do this job and to have the opportunity to share that experience with you. Many of those who are listening, you're in a track right now, either through ROTC or through an academy education that leads to commissioning. I'm very grateful to have gone through that path, but the truth is that once I was on active duty, that I was kicked out of the Air Force. I was medically discharged, and I don't know about you, but in my mind, there is no line that connects being medically discharged from the service to someday becoming an astronaut. And so ultimately, the fact that I have gotten to do this job is an incredibly special thing. I've wanted to be an astronaut for as long as I can remember. I grew up reading and watching science fiction. I was a Star Wars kid, and I remember my favorite book was Runaway Robot, about a kid having adventures on Ganymede with his robot friend. But it wasn't until 1981, April 12th, when the Space Shuttle Columbia launched, that this dream was really solidified. And so I remember very clearly my teacher wheeling a television into our second grade classroom And watching that shuttle lift off and really then understanding that there was a way to live and work in space. And so ever since then, I've had this passion of wanting to be a part of human spaceflight. So in the absence of the internet back then, I relied on books to try and chart a path for myself. And all of the early accounts of our astronauts, biographies of our early astronauts, those folks were all pilots and test pilots. And so I thought to myself, that's what I need to do. I need to become a pilot. I need to become a test pilot. And having grown up in an Air Force family, if I was going to become a pilot, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. And if I wanted to pursue that path, I decided that I wanted to go to the Airforce Academy. And so that is really kind of the path that I laid out in front of myself. I worked hard to follow that. After moving, I grew up for the most part in the UK, and after moving back to the US, I graduated from high school in Northern Virginia with the great fortune of having gotten an appointment to the Air Force Academy, joining the class of 1995. And so it's through that journey that I kind of navigated my interests and talents, and joining the Air Force Academy with this goal of someday going on to fly. I decided if I was going to be an astronaut, I needed to study astronautical engineering.
Of course.
And so that's the curriculum I initially started. I discovered fairly quickly that Calculus 3 and I were not good friends. And so I ended up withdrawing from that class and trying again, and further reinforced my understanding that that was not a good path for myself. At that same time, I was taking biology and absolutely crushing it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was passionate about it. I had a talent for it. And so I decided to take a different path in terms of my academic career and really pursue the interest that I had in not how do we build rockets and develop orbits and those sorts of things, but how does the human body actually exist in space, and what are the adaptations and challenges associated with long duration space flight for the human body? And that is what really engrossed me, to the point that at graduation, having switched my major to biology, and at graduation, instead of immediately going on to further training, I pursued and was awarded a scholarship opportunity to study cardiovascular physiology, specifically how the heart and the cardiovascular system are affected by the weightless environment. And so that was an amazing experience, amazing opportunity to be fully immersed in this domain that I was very passionate about. Now, after graduating from that program, I went on to pilot training. That dream of flying as a pilot for the Air Force was still alive. And so then went off to Vance Air Force Base in Eden, Oklahoma. And did very well in that program, but about a third of the way through the first phase, I went to the flight dock with what I thought was a cold. And after a little bit of hemming and hawing, the flight surgeon indicated that they thought something else was going on and that needed to be investigated. And so I was actually pulled out of the cockpit at that point and subjected to further diagnostic testing to evaluate me for possible asthma. Now, I didn't think that I had asthma. I didn't really think that I had symptoms, but and I really didn't think that I'd have any trouble getting back into the cockpit. But understanding that sometimes these larger organizations don't have the interests of individuals at heart, I decided, you know what, I ought to have an alternative. If they don't let me continue to fly, I want to be able to present something else that I can do for the Air Force. And so I started taking night classes to prepare for the entrance exams, and I started applying to medical schools.
Wow.
Now, the time came up that I was going to meet my medical evaluation board, and to my dismay, not only was the recommendation that I not continue to fly, but actually that I be discharged from the Air Force. And I felt a deep obligation to the service. This was a kind of a shocking outcome, but I decided to appeal the decision, went through that whole process, but ultimately the decision was upheld, not only was I to be taken out of flight training, but to ultimately be medically discharged. So you can imagine that after over a decade of investment in this path of becoming a pilot and maybe someday an astronaut, that being kicked out of the Air Force was challenging. And so I look at that day as probably one of the most challenging days in my professional career. It represented the complete obliteration of this dream to maybe someday, not only to fly, but maybe someday to become an astronaut. And so very, very difficult. And so I had to rely on my family, friends, my faith to really navigate that very challenging time. And so it was I remember very clearly the time that came up that my UPT class was graduating, and that was a bittersweet event. You know, I was incredibly excited for my friends receiving their pilot wings, selecting the aircraft they were going to go on to fly, but just that sense that, man, I should have been there too. And but I remember also the very next day heading out of town to just go hang out at a coffee shop and to do some work, but stopping by my mailbox on the way out of town, and inside was a large package from the University of Colorado accepting me into medical school. And so as one door closed, another door opened, and really a door that I think served my values, and that was it was an opportunity to challenge myself and to continue to serve the community. So having been discharged from the Air Force now, embarking on a path in medicine, did 4 years at University of Colorado, and then went on to train in emergency medicine up in Minneapolis. And as a part of that training, we work in the hyperbaric chamber, taking care of critical care patients who may have been exposed to carbon monoxide or to diving injuries, but you can't serve in the hyperbaric chamber and have asthma. So I had to get tested for that. And when I was tested, they said, well, we don't think you've got asthma. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And so I got tested several more times, given the gravity of that diagnosis, and essentially cleared of asthma. And so in my mind, that opened the opportunity to still participate in human spaceflight in some way. And so finishing emergency medicine, I did a second residency in aerospace medicine down here in Galveston at University of Texas Medical Branch. And upon graduating from that program, got a job here at Johnson Space Center as a flight surgeon and a physician that takes care of the astronauts and crew. And I did that job for a couple of years, and about a year into that work, NASA announced a new astronaut selection. And so I threw my hat in the ring and had the great privilege of being selected into the 20th astronaut group in 2009. I did that, did 2 years of astronaut candidate training, learning space station systems and how to use the robotic arm, how to do spacewalks, how to fly in the T-38 jet, learning Russian language, doing Russian language training, and then ultimately being assigned to a mission in my first flight in 2015. So all of that to say, that very windy and confusing path that ultimately led to this opportunity to fly in space, and having the very distinct memories of that very first view of the Earth from low Earth orbit, the opportunity to float and to see the Earth from that incredible perspective, and really the realization of this lifelong dream. But all of those things, I'm really most grateful for the gift of perspective and the opportunity to look back at the path that I had taken, and to see what was, for most of my life, one of the worst days in my professional life, the day that I was discharged from the Air Force, and to ultimately recognize it as one of the best days.
Wow.
And realizing that had I not been discharged from the Air Force, that I would not be here today, that I would not have this opportunity. And so I think as we go through challenges in our life, really understanding that we don't have the context, we don't have the bigger picture, we don't have the opportunity to look back on this event in our lives and understand what it really represents. And so the perspective is really a gift, because many of us, as we go through life and encounter those challenges, don't get to see the silver lining. And so I'm grateful for that and grateful for the opportunity to share that. And so I want to just circle back to your, I told you a little bit of the story and the path that I took to get here. I want to address some of the questions that you posed, and that is, what is that razor thin path that you absolutely have to take to become an astronaut? And what I would say is that's a complete myth. There are many, many paths that lead to this incredible opportunity of working as a NASA astronaut and living and working in space. Even within just my class, we have test pilots, flight test engineers, combat engineers. We have an aerospace engineer who worked for the CIA for a little while. We have a microbiologist. We have several physicians. And so for now, at least, if you have a background and a specialty in one of the STEM disciplines, there is a path to ultimately becoming an astronaut. And the best advice I can give you and those who are interested is that don't pursue a career, don't pursue a specialization, don't pursue an activity simply because you think that's what NASA is looking for in its astronauts. If you do that and you're not even interested in that thing, you're going to be miserable and you're not going to be successful. So if you pursue a path of something that you're interested in, something you're passionate about, you're going to excel. You're going to have a talent in that. You're going to excel. And that is where NASA, where the astronaut office has the privilege of selecting our folks. We get to skim the very best of the best off of the top of all these disciplines of operations and physical sciences and flying. And if you are doing something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, that you have a talent for, you're going to excel and make a case for yourself for joining us here in the astronaut office. I would say that the secret sauce is that recognizing that there are no shortcuts. Excuse me. And that the secret sauce is hard work. Hard work opens doors. It creates opportunities. Be the very best at what you're doing right now. As I talk with medical students who someday want to become astronauts. Or young cadets like yourself, or young officers. It is great. It is fine to think about that ultimate goal, but you've got to be the best. And as I talk to medical students, you've got to be the very best medical student that you can be right now. If you're distracted by a bunch of extracurricular activities that are preventing you from being the best at what you're doing right now, you're doing yourself a disservice. And so being, as I talk to medical students, be the best medical student. And that's going to open opportunities for you when you graduate, such that you're going to get to choose whatever residency that you want to do. And you go do that, and then be the very best medical resident that you can be until the point where you graduate from that. Now you've opened this door. You can survey all the incredible opportunities that you've created for yourself by working hard and being successful, and then take that next step. So that hard work is really important. And as I look back on my own journey, nobody told me to apply to medical school. Nobody told me to do night classes, driving an hour and a half each way and spending 2 to 3 hours studying every night for several weeks to prepare for that. But because I had done that, because I had invested in that, I had provided an opportunity for myself that provided an alternate path when I was discharged from the Air Force. So all of that to say that hard work and the thing that you're interested in and passionate about and talented at is going to prepare you the best for the opportunity to maybe someday become an astronaut.
Amazing. That's incredible, sir. Thank you. You mentioned perspective and kind of the perspective that you got while in space. So I guess my next question to that, which I don't even know how I do a follow-up to that, but during your time in space, did you experience any moments of solitude or introspection that impacted you personally and professionally? I know you mentioned your family and your friends and your faith. But yeah, if you could just talk about any times that you had while you were up there and how that impacted you.
Yeah. I think those moments of introspection really require intentionality. We are very, very busy on the space station.
Sure.
We are scheduled down to the 5 minute increment. We definitely have time on our own. So before 7 in the morning, after 7 at night is personal time. We usually have the weekends off, and that is time that we can use for ourselves. But it's very easy to stay busy and to not give yourself the room, the time, the space to really think about this incredible opportunity that you've been afforded. And so I think, at least on our crew and many crews, try to make that time to just float in the cupola, to look back at the Earth and reflect on this incredible experience that we've been afforded. I will say that, you brought up faith, that really whatever beliefs, ideas, thoughts that you hold on to on Earth are generally emphasized in space. There's nothing that I think it really profoundly changes. I think it reinforces your perspective. The thing that the kind of the revelation that I think that I had during my mission was really gained looking back at the Earth and seeing it as a very discrete, contained element. And so as you look at the Earth, you look above, below, all around it is surrounded by that black, inky void of space. In our view, in our experience, all there is still the Earth. It is where our family, our friends, our whole history lies. And so I think sometimes as we are on the Earth and think about it, it feels like everything is inexhaustible. Never struggled for air to breathe, or water, very gratefully for water to drink, or food to eat. And we certainly know that that is not the case for everybody on the Earth. But it feels like the access to that feels somewhat infinite. And as you look at the Earth from space, you recognize that it is a finite object.
Yeah.
It is, there is nothing close by. It is all we have. And it is encapsulated by a very, very thin atmosphere. And so, as we were living on the space station, we spend about 30% of our time taking care of the space station, doing preventive and corrective maintenance on this vehicle that is providing us with air to breathe and water to drink, food to eat, protection from radiation and micrometeorites, providing us with thermal protection, because it's very clear to us that if it breaks,
That's all you have.
because we're not doing maintenance, that we will die. I mean, it is very clear that it is protecting us from the hazards outside.
Yeah.
And I would venture to guess that those of us that live here on the Earth, humanity's spaceship, that very few of us spend 30% of our days taking care of this spaceship, taking care of the Earth, which is providing us water to drink, food to eat, protection from radiation and the thermal swings of the vacuum of space. And so that recognition that where we are living is finite gave me, I think, something, these are things that I think all of us recognize, but it really emphasized it to me. And so when I got home, it gave, I think, me a new, it invigorated me to pursue ways of protecting the Earth in better ways. And that's a very daunting task as an individual, but I think we all can do our own part. And for me, that was, as I was partnered with my two boys going through Scouts, helped me focus on conservation opportunities and outdoor ethics. For my wife and I to do the training to become Texas Master Naturalists and to be involved at our local nature center in education and conservation and service. And so I think that's probably the most profound experience that I have taken from my spaceflight opportunities.
That's incredible. And I think that's something that probably a lot of us aren't thinking about, how like the Earth is our spaceship and we should be spending more time taking care of it.
Absolutely.
Along with that, I think a hot topic that's been discussed among ROTC cadets, especially those who want to go rated and join the pilot community and those who want to be astronauts, is the question of if it's still important to have humanity in space. I still think it is, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's something that's very important to discuss and have conversations about. My own personal perspective is that the answer is yes.
Yeah.
We can learn a lot about the moon and nearby planets and the solar system and the universe using robotic exploration. But there is something that is very special and unique about the human experience in exploration. And I would liken it to, why would we go visit the Caribbean or New Zealand or the Alps if we've got pictures in front of us? People have been there, they've taken pictures, here are the pictures, you're good to go. There is something very special about sending a member of our species, fellow humans, into those environments for that human experience, and either doing that yourself or being able to talk to somebody that has done that. So that human part of exploration, I think, is very much a part of just who we are, what we are, and is an important part of just gaining knowledge and insight into the universe around us. The other piece of the exploration that I think is critically important is that opportunity to continue to challenge ourselves. Spaceflight remains incredibly hard. It's the reason that we're going back to the moon now is because it turns out, is an incredibly hard. And it's amazing what we were able to accomplish in the 1960s and how incredibly hard it remains even today. With all of the advances in technology that we have, going to the lunar surface safely and bringing our astronauts back home to the Earth safely is really, really hard to do. And so accepting that challenge and developing all of the strategies and equipment and knowledge that is necessary to be able to do that effectively, it makes us better. It helps us to work together as a team, and it creates knowledge that can be used to improve the lot of humanity overall. I think the International Space Station and the time that we've spent with our international partners in low Earth orbit is a huge testament to that. The technologies that we've developed, the knowledge that we've gained, and the cooperation, the demonstration of what we were able to accomplish when we work together for a peaceful goal, I think is incredibly important.
So then to get there, I know you talked about a little bit earlier for our first question about how to not shape your career to what you think NASA wants it to be, but to be the best in what field you're doing, whether you're a student or you're a cadet. So I guess going back to your time at the academy, what kept you motivated? Now, obviously you can look back on that time and you're so accomplished now, but while you're at the academy, what kept you motivated? And then now, being as accomplished as you are, what keeps you grounded?
All right, thank you. So what kept me motivated? That I think that wherever you are right now, there are challenges that you are encountering, whether you're going through an ROTC program, whether you enlisted and ultimately decide to go through OTS or OCS, or you're in an academy experience. There are challenges there that on a day-to-day basis can feel like a grind. I think what motivated me is that I made the choice to do that. I competed. It was a goal to pursue an education and to challenge myself to join the military. And so as hard as many of those experiences were, I wanted to be there. And so I rested on that and recognized that I asked for this. And I also really, at the time and even now, appreciated the opportunities that I was afforded in those experiences. Getting to do things, whether it's ROTC or through an academy experience, there are things that you get to do that nobody else even gets to dream about. And so I really appreciated that. And then more than anything, it is the network, the connections, the relationships. So going and doing hard things with others, and the bonds that are created in doing that create lifelong friendships and relationships that will that serve you personally and will serve you professionally for the rest of your careers. And so I think those things were motivating for me while I was going through it. Again, very appreciative of the opportunities that they afforded. And, in retrospect now, looking back at the incredible foundation or even launching pad that those experiences provided me in my future journey and path. And let's see, the other part of that was...
what keeps you grounded now?
Oh, what keeps me grounded?
Yeah.
I think the thing that keeps me grounded is just the continued challenge. And so I'm very grateful that as I have gone through my career, there have always been challenges ahead. Flying for the first time, the challenge of going through training and doing that flight successfully, and then coming home and having opportunities to serve and support the astronauts in the organization as we continue to explore, and then getting an opportunity to fly again. Even as a second time, that space flight experience, that opportunity is a challenging one, and wanting to be better every day, and making sure that as I flew and had the opportunity to lead in that second experience, wanting to do that better than I did even the first time around. And now having returned from that second flight and having the opportunity now to serve in a leadership role, the challenge is what keeps me humble and keeps me grounded, because I have a desire to see my fellow astronauts, especially those that have not had the chance to fly yet, to see them have the same extraordinary experience that I did, and to provide the skills and training and framework so that they can prepare and have that experience. But also now in this leadership role, to serve the other folks in the organization, so that we meet our directorate, we meet our mission goals, and that is to fly and execute these human spaceflight missions safely, to protect the vehicle, to protect our people, and to make sure that we're succeeding at the mission, doing the science and research that we've been entrusted to do to extend our presence in the solar system and to make life better back here on Earth.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I guess along with that too, is there anything that you wish you could tell your younger self? Like, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently? I know your son is at the Airforce Academy, so in a way, I guess you can talk to your younger self, but yeah, retrospect and perspective.
Yeah, that's pretty...
getting brought up, but like,
Sure, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I definitely have talked with my son a lot about, what he was going to face in the fourth year, his freshman year at the Air Force Academy. And the things I've told him are probably the things that I would tell myself. I wouldn't change anything. The hardships that I encountered are all of a part of what have made me who I am today, and have afforded the opportunities and experiences that I have. And so I'm grateful for all of that. Even the hard days, I'm grateful for. What I think that how I would coach myself is one, there are hard days ahead. Expect them, and really connect with why you are willing to go through those hard experiences. Why are you in ROTC? Why are you at the Academy? Why have you committed yourself to serving in the armed forces? That's really important to understand the why. That is going to get you through those hard days. And connecting with the who is in your network, who is on your team, who are the people that you can lean on when times get tough, and who are the people that are going to lean and need to lean on you in similar tough situations. Those connections, I think, are really important as you encounter the hard times. And I described a very challenging time, an obstacle, a hardship in my path to becoming an astronaut. And so I think if you have not had those hard times in your professional career yet, you will have them ahead. They will look different, they will be different, but those hard times lie ahead. And so being prepared to deal with those, I think, is really important. And so those are things that I've shared with my son, and that's advice that I give myself.
I love that. So, with all of those lessons learned in the earlier years of your career, I guess being in ROTC and being at the academy, it's all about becoming a leader of character. So, in the earlier years of your career, what did you appreciate most from leadership? And like, what inspired you to be better or do better? I think it's the John Quincy Adams quote that's like, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. I know ROTC and the academy follows that. So, in the beginning of your career, what did you appreciate most from leadership? And then how has that changed or stay the same as you've gone through, like all the positions you've held?
Yeah, great question. You know, I am really grateful for all the leadership opportunities that I've had even before my academy experience. So having grown up and being a scout and an Eagle Scout, a lot of leadership, peer leadership opportunities within scouting. And then in high school within sports. And then at the academy, you know, peer leadership is really, really challenging. And knowing and learning how to lead your colleagues and to lead people that are even more experienced than you is really difficult. But, you know, the truth is that you're going to experience that throughout your career. So even in your Air Force career and within my astronaut career, I have had the opportunity and challenge of leading people that were my personal classmates, or people that had been in the office even longer than me, and that is difficult, and sometimes it feels artificial within ROTC or within an academy experience. But the truth is that you're going to encounter that. You know, if I had any regrets as I look back, I think that it is not really recognizing the incredible privilege and value of those leadership experiences, and not maybe really deriving the full benefit from those and doing my very best in some of those experiences. And so, you know, again, maybe some advice that I've given to my son is, like, as these opportunities come up, really embrace them and take them seriously. Leadership is, if you are leading a team and it is not hard, I would say that you're not doing it right. Leadership can consume you. And so there's definitely a balance to find there. You know, I often think about my Air Force leadership experiences and remember very clearly, you know, that kind of Air Force mantra of leadership of take care of your people. And to me, that sounds, it's very short, it's very almost trite. That it doesn't really fully encapsulate what it means to be a leader. But over the course of my career and experience that I've had, I've discovered that that is actually a very complex and can be a very hard thing to do. You know, I think there are some very easy ways to take care of your people, but to truly take care of your people means to understand the perspective that they have, to understand what makes them tick, to have a relationship with them, and help them to understand that you are invested in them and care about them. And to do those things takes a lot of time and effort and intention to do it right. And so, as simple as it is to say take care of your people, it is actually very powerful and very difficult and challenging to do right. But I think that it really does very simply kind of capture a lot of what it means to be a good leader. And so I think, again, coaching my son on that and reflecting that on a daily basis for myself and the leadership, the role that I now currently serve in, it's a reminder of the time and effort that's required to lead well.
Yeah, thank you. I guess my final question is what excites you for the future? You've given so much good advice that I'm sure all of us are so appreciative of. But yeah, looking forward, because you've looked back, what excites you for tomorrow? Like, what is the most exciting thing?
Yeah, so there are a couple, I guess a couple of things. First of all, I'm really excited about where human spaceflight is going. We're in an incredible era where commercial companies have accomplished things that only nation states have accomplished in the past, successfully launching humans into low Earth orbit and returning them safely to the Earth. So we have a very vibrant commercial sector that we are going to lean on to really help us with low Earth orbit operations as NASA now focuses outwards. And as we return to the moon, establish a sustainable presence there as we look even further, look on to Mars. And so it is an incredible time to be involved in human spaceflight, to be involved in exploration, where we are going to have a very vibrant and active low Earth orbit industry as we return to the moon. And I know for myself and many of my colleagues and many of you that are watching, you know, the images of our Apollo astronauts living, working on the moon are absolutely inspiring. And the thought that we are going to do that friends and colleagues of mine are going to be operating on the moon in the near future is really, really exciting. So in terms of what we're doing, I think we've got an amazing mission. We've got an amazing economy and amazing workforce to be able to pull that off. The other thing that excites me is the next generation of leaders that are going to backfill what we are doing and to carry that torch from the moon onto Mars. And so that is that we have leaders and officers, future officers like yourself, in this I-5 community that are deeply interested and invested in human exploration and human spaceflight, and that you all are coming behind and will be joining us as we continue to explore. You're the next generation of engineers, scientists, pilots, explorers, and astronauts. And so very excited about this opportunity to share with you today, and excited about what you are going to be doing in your near-term careers and how you're going to be carrying human exploration forward in the future.
Thank you. Well, that concludes all of our questions. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I know we all really, really appreciate it. And yeah, we're so grateful to be serving with leaders of character such as yourself. And we hope that we can continue your legacy as the years continue and as our careers jumpstart. But yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Cadet Cernus, and thank you again for the opportunity to chat with you all today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.